puck challenge, and you will shoot your little pucks like so, like better than that. And you want to get them all on one side. I win. Let's do this!
Pastor Matt,
Yeah.
TIERA!
I'm going down, buddy.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Oh my gosh.
Climactic start.
TIERA, you're going much slower. Are you intimidated right now?
Whoa!
Uh-oh, coming back.
Okay.
Get him like out of the way. Why can't I?
Oh, it's so close. Stay alive!
Why? Why? Dang it. Dang it.
Uh-oh!
Okay.
Well, at least I got them all on my side.
I'm ready. Are you ready?
You ready? 3, 2, 1. Go, 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 go. Concentrate. Concentrate. All right. Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Welcome to my world. Get moving, man. Just get me away.
Okay. Okay. Go, go, go.
Oh.
I sense a comeback. Okay. Okay. Whoa. Stress! Stress! Go, 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 go. Okay. Concentrate. Concentrate. No! No! Oh, that was good. I know. 3, 2, 1. Go, 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 go. Okay, I don't know. Okay. Oh!
I told you.
If she launches it, it goes back on her side. Come on, Katie! Come on, Katie! Come on! Katie!
God.
Come on! Katie! Come on! It's literally the last one, Katie!
Barely pulling back.
Lucas and TIERA. All right, here we go.
3, 2, 1, go! Oh no! Go easy on me! Stop! Have mercy on me! Is that mine or no? No! No!
Game over.
Thank you, Melissa. All right, PT. 2, 1, go! All right, Katie. Okay, Katie. All right, PT. Whoa! The adrenaline is intense.
That's what it is.
Oh. She scored 3 times in that same game.
Katie! Katie, you're okay, so Katie. Katie, you're so close. Oh! Come on, Katie, come on, come on.
God.
Oh! Come on, Katie. Katie! Katie! Good job.
All right, so now it is Katie versus TIERA. 2, 1, go.
Dang, all right,
My God! Wow! Well, the winner is TIERA!
Santa's coming to town.
Yes! This Christmas music.
I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I want to wish you a
Merry Christmas! Ugh. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Feliz Navidad, whatever term you use. Merry Christmas, guys. It is December. It is the last month in 2020. We are here. Friends, this is a great time to be celebrating this new frontier. But before we move into 2021, we have Christmas season, and I'm really excited. This year, I'm excited and genuinely happy that Christmas is here with us, so much so that I actually decided to wear a Christmas hat, Santa Claus hat, in a video, and that never happens. But I'm gonna take that off because I'm not gonna wear that the whole time. So if you think about it, there's actually a lot of different seasons greetings that we say to one another that is Christmas season specific. We say Merry Christmas, we say Happy Holidays, Feliz Navidad, we say things like that. And if you think about it, there's only a few that we actually say, like the ones I just mentioned. And don't get me wrong, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I think over the years, we can sometimes gloss over the true meanings behind some of these words and some of these meanings, like Merry Christmas or peace be with you, different things like that. We say it so often we kind of forget its significance and we forget its true meaning. And so this Christmas season, I wanted to look at Christmas at a different angle. I wanted to kind of talk about the Christmas season and talk about the Christmas story, some of the familiar things that we know of. Obviously it's about Jesus, but I kind of wanted to look at some new angles and maybe remind us of some things that are truly important about the Christmas season. We're going to start a new series titled New Seasons Greetings, and today the message is titled Jesus is better. Let's get into it, guys. I can't talk today. So to start today's message, we're going to Luke chapter 10. It says this: As Jesus and his disciples went on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha welcomed him in her home. She had a sister named Mary who sat down at the feet of the Lord and listened to his teaching. Martha was upset over all the work she had to do, so she came and said, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to come and help me. The Lord answered her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled over so many things, but just one is needed. Mary has chosen the right thing, and it will not be taken away from her. So have you noticed that the activities surrounding Christmas, like leading up to Christmas, the days and weeks, just totally dominates and just takes over all of our lives? I mean, think about all the parties that we go to. We go to our school parties, we go to our church parties, we go to our family's parties, both mom and dad's side, or we go to our sporting event parties, and then we have to get gifts, and then we have to go to plays and pageants and all these different things. And isn't it interesting how we can get trapped and feel so closed in and just busy because of all of what Christmas kind of entails? And then oftentimes we feel like if we can't do all of these things, like get all the right gifts, do everything for everyone, go to all the parties, say hello to everyone, give everyone a Christmas greeting, if we feel like we can't do all that, we sometimes just feel guilty. But maybe what if that's all wrong? Maybe we have been spending too much time focusing on the activities around Christmas instead of focusing on who Christmas is actually all about. I know that sounds cliche and that sounds stereotypical, like, well, of course we know what Christmas is all about, but let's think about this, is how often do we get trapped into doing all the things, all the activities that surround Christmas, and yet don't spend that much time actually focusing on who Christmas is about? Not just remembering that, yes, Jesus is the reason for the season, but actually spending time with the person who it's all about. That's kind of a big deal. I think Christmas is a dangerous holiday. And I say that with all the great and goodness that can come with it, is that if we choose to be trapped in the materialistic world around Christmas, we can choose to truly lose focus of what it means to know Jesus and to love Jesus and to allow his love, his mercy, his grace, and all of the characteristics that he is to be a part of our lives and for it to permeate outside of our lives. I like to think about it like this, is are we doing so much in the service of the celebration of Jesus that we forget to sometimes spend time with Jesus? I don't think it's wrong to have church events and to celebrate and have Christmas parties and to do all these great things, but I think this can be an easy season in our lives to actually get distracted away from Jesus and who he is, because we are so distracted by all the parties for Jesus. And here's what I mean. In the story that we just read, we have Jesus who is at the home of Mary and Martha. Now, if you know Jesus, he was a pretty popular guy. He healed people, he loved people, and people loved that. And so as Jesus went from town to town, people all the time would surround him and create these big, basically parties and congregations all around him. They would follow him, and he would actually have a hard time getting away from people. And in this story, Jesus went by this town, and Mary and Martha invited Jesus over to the house. And so while Jesus is there and he's sitting down and he's probably eating or doing something, he's telling stories, he's sharing, good news, he's doing Jesus things. Martha is around the house, and it says that she is like busy and trying to fix things and get things all together and do things that are needed to prepare someone to visit them. But Mary, on the other hand, was sitting at the feet of Jesus. And you kind of wonder, okay, well, who was doing the wrong thing? Was Mary being lazy? Was Martha being overly crazy about everything? And so Martha gets so upset that Mary's not doing anything to help her prepare, for the guests that are here, including Jesus. She basically pauses and stops to Jesus and goes, hey, will you tell Mary to get off her butt and help me out? And Jesus corrects her. Now, here's what's interesting about his correction. He doesn't condemn Martha for what she was doing. What she wasn't doing wasn't necessarily wrong within itself, but in that certain circumstance, Jesus said that what Mary was doing was better. And that's a really important thing to remember here. You see, what Martha was doing preparing for Jesus was not a bad thing all in itself, but she was forgetting something really important. Jesus. Mary was choosing to focus on Jesus where his presence was right then and right there. Martha was choosing to try to make the party happen, to try to make everything go right and to make everything look good. That's not always a bad thing. It's a good thing to prepare your hearts and to prepare your lives and to have, organization in your life. But in this moment and in this season, Mary was choosing what was better. And I think we can choose to do that as well. I think we can choose to be like Mary in this holiday Christmas season and to focus on what is better. So today's question is, how do we choose what is better? How do we choose to really focus on all the good things about Christmas, all the important things about Christmas? How do we choose to have a truly Merry Christmas? And how do we choose to really let go of the distractions and focus on who it's all about? So today we're going to go over a few things of just a little list of mine, of a Christmas list, if you would like to say, of things that I believe are important and that are better than just everything else about Christmas. So let's do it. For point number 1, we're going to Luke chapter 12. Let's read it. Speak to the people, he went on, take care. Protect yourself against the least bit of greed. Life is not defined by what you have, even when you have a lot. All right, so for point number 1, the point is to choose to eliminate the fake. Here's what I mean. There is a lot of fake things in the Christmas season. In other words, things that aren't really that important. Now, before I go any further, some of these fake things are going to be fake for you, but not such a big deal for me, and vice versa. There's some things in our lives that we have our own convictions for, things that will mean something more to you or to me because of what it does to you or to me. So, for example, I this year in this Christmas season am choosing not to go on social media every single day and posting funny videos about like Elf on the Shelf, even though I've never done that, but a baby Yoda on the shelf would be fun. I personally am not going to go crazy trying to decorate all of my house because it takes a lot and I'm going to take it down. It's just going to add more stress to my December. I'm also not going to try to go to every single Christmas party. There's going to be some that I'm sure I'll get invited to and some that I know people will, kind of want to have happen. But in order for me to have my sanity this December and for me to have a healthy, family-focused Christmas this year, I'm going to have to choose sometimes not to go to all the parties. And that might be you too. That might be you in this circumstance where it's okay for you not to go to all of the parties, all the events, all the craziness that usually happens in December. And here's my point. A lot of times we get so focused in all of the events that we think that's what Christmas is all about. Now, don't get me wrong. There are good intentions when it comes to said events. Sometimes it's really good to go to these events and celebrate and have a good time and to have fellowship and all those good things. But when it becomes a distraction from who Jesus is and be able to spend quality time with the people that actually matter, then it becomes part of this fakeness that I'm talking about. Another way of looking at this is I don't want to be materialistic. In other words, I don't want to have this Christmas be all about the material things. There's still a big lie out there that Christmas is about receiving. That's not the case. Christmas is about giving. It's about what we can do to give to others. God gave his son to us here on earth so that way we might have new life. And so we are now called to share that life, share that gospel, share that good news with others. And if you're kind of confused as to what might be the fake in your life, here's a simple way of narrowing it down. Is what you're doing, is it bringing you closer to Jesus or is it bringing you further away from him? Point number 2 is to choose significant relationships first. In 1 John chapter 4, it says this: "Dear friends, let us love one another because love comes from God. Whoever loves is a child of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love. And God showed his love for us by sending his only Son into the world so that we might have life through him." Okay, so I believe there are two most important, significant relationships that you can be focusing on during this Christmas season. One, your relationship with God, and two, your relationship with family. If you're watching this, you're probably a teenager, which means your two most important significant relationships are God and your family. Now, there are those exceptions, like really close family, those really close friends who are like brothers, like sisters, that are like really close family. Your main focuses this Christmas season should be on God and those family members. Because here's what happens is, like I said before, we get invited to all these parties, we get invited to all these things, and we choose to put ourselves in situations to where we spend less time with the people who actually mean more to us and spend it with people who we only just want to have a party with. Again, don't get me wrong, parties are not a bad thing, and celebrating with friends is not bad at any stretch of the means. But really, this has to come down between you and the Spirit as to deciding is how much of yourself are you giving to relationships that aren't growing you or bringing you closer to Jesus. Here's another thing I want you to consider is during this Christmas season, choose to actually spend time with those you have significant relationships with. Here's what I mean. When I was younger, when I was like a young kid, my parents would drive me and my sister up to Iowa, where my dad's family is from. And my dad's parents had this really nice old rustic house and had a basement. Almost every Christmas, I remember I enjoyed just going to the basement because, number one, I love basements for whatever reason. But two, because it was just nice and chill and it was warm down there and I could watch TV. And looking back at it right now, I realized that I spent a lot of time just sitting in that basement doing nothing and not really connecting with my family members and not just having more fun with them. And so I want to encourage you this Christmas season, instead of it being a season where you are just, hear me out, there's nothing wrong with having fun, but instead of it just being a season where you're only on social media by yourself, or you're only playing games by yourself, or you're only spending time with yourself, really try to focus on, especially during the Christmas break, spending time with family, spending time with God, and spending time with people who actually are significant in your life. Guys, 2020 has been a year. This is a time, this is an opportunity where we can choose to really just to enjoy each other's company, to really get to love on one another and to experience God's love for us. I want to encourage you, watch some movies with your family. Read the story of Christmas with your family. Do things with your family, with people that you're close to, and to do things that are building you up and bringing you closer to Jesus. For point number 3, we're going to Acts chapter 20. "You yourselves know that I have worked with these hands of mine to provide everything that my companions and I have needed. I have shown you in all things that by working hard in this way, we must help the weak, remembering the words that the Lord Jesus himself said, 'There is more happiness in giving than in receiving.'" Point number 3 is to choose to focus on the needs. Now, there should be 3 main needs in your life right now. There are your needs, there are your family's needs, and there are the needs of those in help. Now, I want to focus on the last one because this is actually a really big important thing. If you look all throughout the Bible, God is huge. I mean, there are so many stories and verses and passages of God instructing people to help your neighbor, to help those who are in need, to help those who don't have anything for themselves. Now, I'd like to share something with you. I have a guilty pleasure. I don't know if it's really a bad thing, but I like to make lists. I love lists. I mean, all kind of lists. I like to make lists of my favorite movies. I like to make lists of movies I watched this year. But I also like to make Amazon gift lists. Like, I go on Amazon and I have these different folders, these different categories of different things that I would like. Now, the reason why I have these lists is because I've had people over the years ask, "Hey Tim, what do you want?" And so instead of me trying to come up with something every time, I just make these lists, and I also enjoy it. And so I now have, if you go to my Amazon account, I have 20 lists of different types of things, like electronics, games, movies, whatever, different things that hey, if you want to buy me something, here you go. And it's really easy for me to get caught up in all of the material things, all the things that I want. And sometimes I have to remind myself that I truly don't need any of those things. At the end of the day, I am blessed and that I am taken care of, and that as long as me and my family are provided for and that we can survive, and if we can live in goodness and grace and love with each other, then I don't need all of those material things. I will survive without that Lego Star Wars Death Star. I will survive without that Captain America shield, or without that new movie, or without that new Xbox Series X, or whatever it is. I will survive without it. I don't need those things. Instead, I want to choose this year on focusing on helping others. How can I choose to help others? Now, that doesn't mean necessarily with money or with, with material things, but let me share an example. There's a story that came out around this time last year. There was this high school class, and there's this boy who kept getting picked on. He kept getting bullied because he kept wearing the same clothes and the same shoes for long periods of time. In other words, showing that he didn't have that many clothes to begin with. So you had these, I think, two boys who decided to take matters into their own hands. Instead of being bullies, instead of, trying to be mean or try to joke about it to this one boy, they decided to go out and buy some new shoes and some new clothes, and they gave it to this boy who didn't ask for anything, who didn't beg for anything, who didn't try to, weasel his way into getting free things. But these boys just knew that this person was in need, and they wanted to help that need out. And I think we can be at least aware of the needs of the people around us. I know there are going to be people around us this year and this season that are in need of help, that need rather maybe just a lunch or lunches during school, or maybe it just might mean going out and just helping people, do yard work, painting walls, whatever it means. There's so many different examples that we could think of. But this also means doing things in our community, like helping out with charity, helping out with church, volunteering and serving in those capacities, doing what you can to serve the needs of others. But then those other 2 points that I talked about, it is so important that we focus on our needs and our family's needs. I kind of talked about it in the last point, but it's so vital that we choose to put our family high on our priority list, to focus on being a family, being connected, to spend quality time with one another. And then also, more importantly, it is so vital that we choose to put the needs of ourselves also at the top of the list. Now, here's what I mean. The needs that we have in our life is to focus on Jesus, to make sure that he is at the top of our attention, that he is at the top of our priority list, that he is the reason why we are doing everything that we're doing. If we're not doing all these things for Christ, then we're doing it just for material possessions, and we're just doing it to have a party. But if we can choose this year to focus on our needs, which our needs is to have Jesus in our lives, then I believe that everything else will trickle down. Everything else will fall into place, fall into order. When we choose to put Jesus at the center of our lives and put them center of our focus, especially during this Christmas season, I believe not only are we going to have a more enjoyable Christmas season, but we're going to have a more fruitful season. We're going to have a more abundant season. And honestly, I think we're going to have a better community because of it. This Christmas, I think it can be so tempting to get distracted by all the material things, all the parties, all the things that aren't necessarily bad within themselves. But I want to encourage you this Christmas season to truly focus on what is better, to choose Jesus, to choose the better option. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't go to parties, doesn't mean that you don't, have fun and to do, fun things. But in it all, make sure you're not forgetting about Jesus. Make sure that you are choosing to spend time with Jesus. Make sure you are diving into your scripture, diving into worship, going to church, worshiping and being in fellowship with other believers, and doing things that God has called you to do. This Christmas season, I want to encourage you to choose better, to choose Jesus.
What's up, you guys? Thank you for joining us for today's service.
Yes, make sure to comment, like, subscribe, and hit that little bell somewhere. It's somewhere on the screen.
It's probably next to the subscribe button.
What do they say? Smack that bell so you can get all updates on our content for you guys because we love you.
Yes, and we hope you enjoyed everything, and we wish you a wonderful week.
Merry Christmas. Bye. As I accept my Puck Award, this is my first ever win ever in the history of youth games.